Azerbaijani Friendship Association. I'm also a JD student, forever student, and also I work with the Walt Disney Company. I'm here today to welcome you to this unique event. I have the honor and also the distinct challenge of keeping us inspired, on time, and caffeinated throughout the day. Luckily, we've already checked one of those boxes with the morning coffee. Today, this forum brings together brilliant minds across the disciplines and borders. We're here to explore how academia and innovation intersect, and how they can collaborate, co-create, and maybe even disrupt politely, all in the name of a better future. We'll be hearing from a remarkable lineup of educators, entrepreneurs, scientists, technologists, and even a few fearless farmers and rocket engineers. If this were a Marvel movie, this would be the most diverse and overqualified cast yet. To officially open this forum, I'd like to invite someone whose leadership continues to shape the global academic.
Good morning, everyone. I'm hoping that you're all caffeinated, so you're energized. You're going to be here all day today. Please, if you haven't grabbed your coffee, feel free to go and grab coffee and some delicious sweets. I would like to welcome you to the annual forum of the US-Azerbaijan Network of Academics. It's been a long break, but seeing everyone gathered again feels like a family reunion. Some of you flew from across the globe from Azerbaijan. We have a lot of colleagues from Azerbaijan. Welcome. Some of you decided to be here on a peaceful weekend. You could be somewhere nicer, warmer in the beach, but you chose to be here. Thank you, and this shows your dedication and sacrifice for science and innovation. But to be here, it's so beautiful here that it's a win-win situation. So you're here for the forum, but you're also here to enjoy California. I hope you enjoy your stay here. We held our first conference, our first annual meeting in 2019 in Washington, D.C. We gathered all scholars and discussed important issues. And when we created US-Azerbaijan Network of Academics, it was just a network. Now I'm happy to see that it's a big movement now. I'm really proud to see this moving forward. Today we find ourselves in the heart of California, where tech giants, startups, and curious minds collide. And we're here to continue the conversation that we started 6 years ago. It's hard to get together, I know, particularly when you're in academia. You have so many research papers, and then some of you are writing books. You have a lot of papers that you have to grade, but thank you for being here. Thank you for getting together, talking, continuing conversations. And I know that you'll all like to be cited in the books and conferences and research papers. But take some time, get to know each other. I encourage that you share your work, amazing work that you're doing with each other. There's an Azerbaijani saying that we say in Azerbaijan, tek elden ses çıkmaz. I tried to translate it, but it's hard to translate, which literally means no sound comes from one hand, which basically means that we can't do work without each other. So collaboration is the real innovation. Collaboration is the real key for this kind of unity. Let's get together today and start planting seeds. I'm a gardener. I have to relate everything to gardening. Let's make sure that we're planting some seeds today so that we can continue the conversations. And to be honest, we always need a reason to come back together. Maybe we'll go to a different state next year. But yeah, I hope that you get together to talk to each other. And remember, in academia, we like to ask a lot of tough questions. And you may not always have answers, and that's okay. That's the beauty of academia. But I hope that we can start conversations that start some ideas for our next gathering. Again, for the collaboration, the most beautiful collaborations always start with tough questions and tough conversations. Before I actually pass the microphone to my colleagues, I would like to thank a couple of people that they have helped us to move forward, to make sure that this is happening. Bringing together a lot of scholars, it's not easy. It's not an easy task because everyone is busy and everyone has something else going on. But to be honest, it takes a lot of passion, persistence, and a lot of emails, back and forth emails follow up. When we started ANA, one person stood with us literally and figuratively next to us, and then shoulder by shoulder, and making sure that we don't get distracted by a lot of academic duties. And every time when I call this person, I promise you the first sentence is always about ANA. How's ANA doing? How do you have new members? How do you have new papers, new books? I am so incredibly lucky, grateful, and honored to be working with Mr. Gurbanov. Thank you so much for believing in us. Thank you so much for encouraging us. Thank you so much for following up with us just to make sure that we're on the right track. Thank you very much. A heartfelt thank you for you and for your amazing team. And where is Mr. Gassam? I would love to thank him personally for making sure that this is happening. I would like to welcome Elshad Bey. Welcome to California. Welcome to United States. It's been a long flight, I imagine, and please enjoy California and meeting our amazing scholars. And then there's one real superhero of the day, Shahla. I don't know where Shahla. Shahla, can you please stand up so everyone can see you? Please. Big thank you to Shahla. She's the head of the organizing committee. I don't think she has slept since January. Shahla, thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much for making sure that we reply to your emails and messages and all of these gentle reminders that you keep sending us. Somehow you managed to keep all of us together in the same room and in the same Zoom rooms. I don't know what I would do without you, and I wish I could just steal you and take you back to Washington, D.C. I also would like to thank Mr. Ulvi Kasumov, who is a true innovator and philanthropist who deeply believes in the transformative power of academia, and other supporters that have believed in academic innovation and have supported us throughout the process. Our brilliant speakers, thank you so much for being here today and flying all the way from different places and driving 1 hour to get here this morning. And so welcome once again. I am thrilled to see you all. I can't wait to reconnect with each of you individually. We're going to be spending 2 days together. I would love to hear your stories, what you're doing, what kind of amazing work that you continue doing. And one last thing I will ask you. I know you're going to be taking lots of beautiful pictures. Please do. Make sure that you take group pictures with each other, but do not forget to use hashtags. Azerbaijani Scholars, US Azerbaijan Innovation Forum, and of course ANA Rocks. So let's get inspired, let's innovate, and let's make some academic noise. Welcome to the forum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mammadova, for this energizing and nurturing speech. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Elshad Aliyev, the Deputy Chair of the State of Azerbaijan, and with work with diaspora. Please welcome Mr. Elshad Aliyev.
Thank you for your invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Mr. Consul General Vikar Gurbanov, Ms. Sevinj Mammadova, it's a great pleasure to greet all of you here in this inspiring forum. I extend warm regards to both Azerbaijani scholars living abroad and our American colleagues, partners in research, education, and innovation. This gathering is more than an academic event. It's a space where experience meets yours and where guidance flows from one generation to the next generation. Through forums like this, we help young people discover direction in their academic and professional paths and empower them to think boldly about the future. As a Deputy Chairman of the State Committee on Work with Diaspora of the Republic of Azerbaijan, I want to emphasize that the committee remains deeply committed to supporting Azerbaijani communities in over 70 countries. We actively promote professional networking, knowledge sharing, and cooperation through a variety of initiatives. I am also pleased to note that in just 2 days, the second Forum of Azerbaijani Youth in America will take place at George Mason University, following the success of the first event held at the George Washington University, with contribution of young Azerbaijanis and including the leadership of Sevinj Mammadova. This growing initiative reflects the energy and potential of our next generation. These events create bridges between disciplines and across continents. They allow our professionals to collaborate, innovate, and stay engaged with both their homeland and their global academic landscapes. I hope this forum will provide a powerful opportunity to explore best practices in research infrastructure, funding strategies, and professional branding tools that are essential for success in academic and entrepreneurial worlds alike. As we come to the close of my remarks, I would like to sincerely thank each of you for your valuable contribution and dedication. I wish you a productive and inspiring forum, and I am confident that the connection made here will lead to lasting impact. Thank you for your...
Thank you so much. Now moving on, before we kick off the main speakers, I would like to invite you all to watch a video of one of our main sponsors, Mr. Ulvi Gasımov. He has some few words for us to say. Let's listen to it. Thank you.
Dear friends and colleagues, I'm really happy to welcome you to the Navigating Futures Conference. This event means a lot to me and I believe to all Azerbaijani academic community in the United States. Today I work in venture capital, but my first education was as a physicist and engineer. Those early years taught me how important science, curiosity, and teamwork are. And I still use these ideas in my daily work. This conference is a wonderful opportunity to meet new people, share experiences, and build friendships. Let's use it to create a community that helps and supports each other, not just now, but for many years ahead. Remember, each of us succeeded because someone once believed in us. Now it's our turn to help and encourage others. Thank you and have a good and great conference.
We're joined with a couple of speakers, and one of them is not physically here, unfortunately, due to some force majeure situation, but we will watch a brief video from Mr. Michael Feuer, the Dean of Graduate School of Education and Human Development at George Washington University. Let's welcome him virtually.
Hello to my friends from Azerbaijan and to all the other participants in this conference. I am sorry that due to a minor injury, I'm not able to travel to be with you, but I thank you for letting me share a few brief thoughts. And of course, just think, the advantage of having me by Zoom is that if you don't like what I'm saying, you can just turn it off and I won't even notice. Well, speaking of Zoom, here's an interesting bit of data. The basic science of digital and cellular technology that allows us to communicate like this, that allows me to actually be with you from 3,000 miles away, was developed in university laboratories with funding mostly from the government. That's the result of a remarkable insight that paved the way for great American advances in science, education, and the economy that were outlined in a critically important report in 1947. It was called Science, the Endless Frontier, written by President Roosevelt's science advisor, an engineer named Vannevar Bush, not related to the many other Bushes of more recent American history. His idea was that basic science is a public good and therefore has to be funded by government because profit-making entrepreneurs simply will not have the economic incentives because the returns will be so diffuse. Further, Bush said that the best research would be conducted in independent, university-based labs and classrooms. And furthermore, that then those great entrepreneurs who actually make the economy hum would translate the basic science into commercially viable and socially beneficial technologies.
Thank you so much. And now, to further set the intellectual tone for the day, we're joined by someone whose career represents the very brilliant. But before that, I also would like to thank all our friends from the state of Utah, and especially the members of the Sterling Committee. Thank you.
Such a delight to add my welcome. I'm thrilled to be here. I want to thank Consul General for the invitation, and to the organizers, congratulations, and to each of you who bring your deep expertise and experience. From the conversations I've already had this morning, people in education to robotics, I have just a glimpse of the kind of deep expertise that's here in the room, and what a thrill it is to come together and to be here with you for a few minutes. It's a true pleasure to be among scholars and leaders who have not only a belief, but who are committing their energy to using the power of universities to shape a better future. I speak to you as a political economist today. For 20 years, I was at Stanford, half the time at the business school, half the time at the Institute for National Studies. And then 9 years, I was at the Computer History Museum, a chief innovation officer. And with that comes some perspectives that I hope I'll share at a kind of a 10,000 foot level. I hope that this humble offering will help maybe set the tone for the conversation today. I would like to talk about why innovation matters in universities, some common myths and pitfalls, 5 guiding principles, and minefields to avoid. These all come from my lived experience in these roles, both at Stanford and the Computer History Museum, as well as the experience leading research programs at Stanford that focused on Silicon Valley and high-tech regions around the world. During my time there, we had research partners in 12 countries, and I advised government leaders, university leaders, and business leaders. So first, let's start with the why, and this is something each of you could add to. We're all here today because we're living in an era of unprecedented challenge and profound opportunity. This double-edged sword is across all sectors, whether in climate change, AI and ethics, pandemic that we've come through, misinformation, socioeconomic inequality. These are all areas perhaps that we're working on in our own ways. Innovation is not optional, but it's essential for us to be able to address these, to solve these problems, and find a way for all of us to thrive. And universities bring this rare combination, don't they? Deep expertise from research, talent development for education for the next generation, a long-term vision, public trust, and independence. And increasingly we're seeing results. Consider some recent data. A recent report cited that universities in the United States spawned 996 startups this past year, a record number emerging directly from campus research. And over the past 2 decades, if we zoom out, you can see that university-driven patent applications have increased threefold, 300%. Today, there are approximately 1,400 unicorns. Those are companies valued at more than $1 billion, with academic origins. And at one of my former homes, Stanford, alone can claim ties to more than 60 unicorns, and we'll talk more about that. These are not just signals, but really, these are not just numbers, but signals that universities have a central role to play in advancing knowledge, in educating the next generation of leaders. Yes, those are the core mission of universities. They also have proven, if led correctly, to be engines of innovation, of economic growth, and societal change. So let's dive a little bit more into Stanford as a case study. And I know that for those of you at Berkeley, my apologies, because of our friendship is sometimes rivalry across the bay between Berkeley and Stanford. Really, the Bay Area, including Berkeley, the University of California in San Francisco, San Jose State University, Santa Clara University, and Stanford, all are one part of a large ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship. But I'll be speaking using examples from Stanford since I was there for 20 years. So, according to a classic study by Chuck Easley and William Miller, which I also participated in, Stanford-affiliated individuals had founded more than 39,000 active companies that are still in existence, generating about $2.7 trillion in annual revenue and 5.4 million jobs worldwide. The ecosystem's not just about startups, it's really about sustained economic growth and societal change over time. More recently, Professor Elshad has shown that more than 40% of US unicorns have at least one founder connected to a university. 40% of US startups with one founder connected to a university. Stanford leads the pack with over currently 200 unicorn founders in its orbit. And this is key, it takes time. How long? We were just talking about that, the slow investment that's needed. The average 7 years from founding to $1 billion. So innovation is not instant, it's not automatic, it's cultivated, and it takes the kind of work that each of you are doing. One example, Jensen Huang, co-founder and CEO of NVIDIA. So he earned his master's in electrical engineering, and he had a bold vision at the time to use graphics processing for computing acceleration, which was a novel idea at the time for semiconductors. It took years of iteration, and at one point the company had only just a few weeks of cash left. But they kept building, problem solving, fueled by this deep belief in the power of high performance computing. Today, NVIDIA is known as the most valuable company, more than $1 trillion in market value, and is powering the breakthroughs in AI, in drug discovery, in climate science, and more. And a landmark gift, and this is important, it's not only about building a company, but it's about returning and reinvesting into the university. So Jensen Huang and his wife Lori generously gave $30 million to Stanford for the School of Engineering, a place where he had his start. And his vision at the time, for when the building was opened, I was there, and he said, to build a better future, we must invest in tomorrow's innovators. Magic happens time and again when bright students learn together in an environment rich with faculty who are best in their fields. We dream of giving students and teachers a place to collaborate and create our future. So that's the potential for the full arc of impact. A student influenced by faculty who becomes an innovator, who impacts the world, who then reinvests in the next generation. Of course, Jensen is just one of a long story of legacy. People in computing technology, Hewlett and Packard were students at Stanford, Jerry Yang and David Filo, who founded Yahoo, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who founded Google, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and many others. But it's not just tech, and that's very important. Often innovation is perceived as something that's primarily in the realm of tech, and that is not true. Certainly, Stanford is one example of that. Nike was co-founded by Phil Knight while an MBA student. Charles Schwab built his financial services empire after earning his degrees at Stanford. So, with that backdrop, I'd like to talk about something more practical, some common myths and pitfalls. These kinds of innovators are often celebrated, but innovation from academia is often misunderstood. So I'd like to just share 2 myths and 2 pitfalls. First myth, I mentioned it already, that innovation is about technology, product innovation, and startups. In reality, of course, it includes many disciplines, and you represent them here, from education to public health, environmental sustainability, justice, and law, and many others. Innovation is not about rethinking new technologies. It's really about rethinking how value can be created and delivered. And some of the most transformative ventures emerge not from lab breakthroughs, but from bold business innovation. So eBay is one example of where Pierre Omidyar didn't invent online auctions, but he reimagined trust-based commerce at scale, empowering millions of sellers globally, small sellers globally. Airbnb, another example by a Stanford graduate, didn't invent home sharing, but it built a platform that enabled individuals to turn idle space or other properties into economic opportunity in 100,000 cities worldwide. Coursera is another example, launched by 2 Stanford professors, Andrew Ng and Daphne Koller, and they redefined education delivery, pioneering massive open online courses, expanding access to learning for over 100 million users. So these companies changed the industry not because of technological invention alone, but because of creating thinking of how people can connect, how they can transact, and how they can learn. So as educators, it's important to help our students not only ask, what can I build, but what new ways of working or living or trusting can I imagine? That can open up even more exciting ways, I think, for innovation. Another way that innovation has been marked by Silicon Valley is not just by individual companies, but by a whole ecosystem changing. And one great example of that is the rise of venture capital in Silicon Valley. So a whole new way, a whole new financial way of funding high-risk organizations. All right, so now a myth. Universities should act like companies. In a lot of the work that I did with universities, many universities felt so enamored by looking at the potential for revenue for both the inventors and the faculty and the students, as well as for the university, that they think, well, we should become a company. Yes, universities can learn from business, but companies serve shareholders. And universities, as the dean just said, serve the public good. And it's very important not to mix up the mission. Academia's purposes, incentives, metrics, and timelines must reflect that difference. Now for a pitfall, trying to copy Silicon Valley. Many places around the world think that there's a one-size perfect recipe that Silicon Valley can be used to apply to their region. Certainly, there are many lessons and principles that can be applied in successful ways. And I've worked with spectacular successes over decades where we've seen that happen, and also equally spectacular failures because of this lack of understanding of the nuances of what's really behind building an innovation system that can be sustained over time. Stanford and Silicon Valley co-evolved over decades. One thing is clear, trying to only copy a model that's worked one place may be a costly mistake. So I would caution places that are trying to do that. The key is to build an innovative ecosystem like a rainforest. It's very complex with a lot of interdependencies that has the capacity for resilience and change over time, so that as opportunities, technologies, world changes, that it also can evolve over time. The last pitfall I'll mention is over-prioritizing science, technology, engineering, and math. While STEM can be superpower tools, some of the most world-changing breakthroughs happen at the edges and intersections where different disciplines meet. It may be with technology, because technology can be have a multiplying effect. So things like AI and ethics. But it can also be in other areas like climate science and governance, or public health and design. Next, I'd like to talk about 5 principles for innovation-driven universities. What helps make a university be a catalyst for innovation? Here are just 5 principles. Maybe they're all familiar to you, but I hope that together with some specific examples, they might lend to the conversation and the dialogue. 1 is to anchor innovation to purpose. Innovation should amplify and not distract from university's core mission of teaching, research, and public service. One example is at Stanford's design school, affectionately known as the D School. Students use design thinking to tackle human problems. They start with the problem first that they're trying to solve: affordable housing, food insecurity, environmental sustainability, and then work backwards to then thinking about what the innovation can serve. The second is to invest fundamentally in the people and the culture, and to embed innovation and entrepreneurship programs innovation and entrepreneurship in programs, in curriculum, in partnerships, but also in the policies and the processes of the university. These things are important to really have sustainable change. And also in the culture and spirit, because people are, after all, the heart of innovation. It's the people, not the patents, that are the most valuable driver for innovation. Take the Knight Hennessy Scholars Program, named in honor of Phil Knight from Nike, and President Hennessy, who was a longtime Stanford president, a great example of an innovator for public good. That program was funded with a $750 million gift from Nike co-founder Phil Knight, and it brings together 100 future global leaders from around the world, from 70 different countries and multiple disciplines. And the purpose there is, as Phil Knight said, leaders who have both strong moral compasses and balanced imagination. So they're not just high achievers, they're high contributors. The third is to build cross-sector bridges, and this forum today is a great example of that, to create and invest in platforms, in communities, and spaces that bring diverse people together, faculty and students and industry. Stanford Biodesign is a great example of that, where engineers work with physicians and business leaders and patients all around how to make medical devices that can serve people better. And so they brainstorm being in the hospital with the patients and saying, what are 100 possible needs that we can solve this year in heart health, for example, or whatever each year there's a focus. And then from that, the curriculum brings together systematically over the course of the year opportunities for the students and faculty to work together to build across the sectors. Innovation, as we all know, is strong at the edges between sectors and disciplines. Fourth is to support the translation, to move ideas from the lab or from the classroom or from the mind into real life. Stanford's Office of Technology Licensing has generated over $2 billion in licensing revenue for the university, with more than 12,000 disclosures. And it has a very systematic way of working with faculty and students. StartX is a great example of a nonprofit accelerator started by students that's helped launch about 700 startups. So organizations like these contribute to the success and acceleration of progress by codifying best practices, by building an expert community, by providing support to address the biggest risks and challenges for ideas and startups. And the last is to center on values in 2 dimensions. The first is to show that you value innovation, to invest in and give power to the change agents, probably like many of you who are the change agents in the university, to incentivize risk, to reward cross-disciplinary work, to celebrate and tell the stories and failures of the innovators. And the other part of the value proposition is to make sure to center innovation on values, core values, and ethics. Stanford's human-centered for artificial intelligence, Stanford High as it's called, Human-Centered AI Institute. The researchers not only ask what can we build, but what should we build, and who will benefit or be harmed. Ethics and values are not a barrier to innovation. I believe that they're the compass that makes innovation worthy of trust. Ethics are not the brakes on innovation, they should be the steering wheel. Last, I want to just mention some of the common barriers and minefields, because as we're working to accelerate innovation in universities, there are common barriers, structural barriers, things, maybe you've experienced some of these, sometimes tenure, funding silos, and reward systems discourage risk-taking or agility vital for innovation. Rigid governance and slow bureaucracy in universities can be a stumbling block. Traditional IP policies can stall or discourage commercialization, and gaps in support in the innovation process. At the same time, on the other side, in their zealousness to promote innovation, universities can inadvertently jeopardize core values of academic institutions. So they must also avoid these minefields, conflicts of interest where private gain threatens academic objectivity and independence, conflicts of commitment where time and focus tempt people to shift from their core duties, erosion of trust, especially if transparency, accountability, human-centered values, and ethics are lacking, and over-commercialization when innovation chases markets and knots and doesn't support mission. Stanford has addressed and wrestled with many of these issues, and if we had longer, we could talk about some of the specific strategies around that. Universities must protect their soul, as well as at the same time that they scale their impact. So let me end with this. Innovation is not just about technology or product, it's about transformation through people and for people. Universities are not bystanders to the change. There's enough data to show that universities are powerful knowledge producers and platforms for purpose and real change. Innovation is not about chasing unicorns, it's about cultivating people who imagine and build a better future. So my hat is off to each of you for the role that you are playing for universities to be catalysts for innovation, to help shape the future with curiosity, with courage, and with conscience.